I got an email from a client the other day. She wanted us to verify that the loss her tax accountant was saying, like, makes sense. Does it sound reasonable? And my first reaction was, yeah, it sounds reasonable. We've been telling you all year. And my heart just broke for her because, well, we've been having conversations all year about how your pricing doesn't match your expenses and it's not working for you. She hasn't wanted to hear it. And as a result, 12 months later, she's at a loss. And that sucks because I don't want any business to be at a loss, especially when it's preventable and it's been identified why you are having such a loss. Because here's the thing, most often people have two issues. One, they can't make sales. And here's the thing, if you can't make sales, that's where you need to start. Your business all needs to start with sales. There's no funds to manage, hi Pierre. There is no funds to manage if your business doesn't have sales. So that's where you need to start. But if you're like this client and you're making sales and that's not the issue, it's how are you managing those funds and using those numbers to drive your business forward. In her case, she's making the sales, and where she's having an issue is with the pricing of those sales. Now, if you're new here, my name is Cheryl, this is Pierre, and my business partner Katrina and I own Empowered to Profit, where we help small business owners just like you put more of your revenue into your personal account. In today's video, we're going to talk about 3 signs to know if you have a pricing problem. And then what you should do if you do actually have a pricing problem. Because right, it's great to identify it, but now what? We're going to tackle that too. The first way to know if you have a pricing problem is, are you operating at a loss? Pull up your QuickBooks. I hope it's accurate. We can talk about that in another video. And look at your bottom line. What is your net income? Is it positive or it's negative? If it's negative, you have a pricing problem. Another way to identify if you have a pricing problem in your business, are you constantly cash poor? Meaning there's never enough cash in your bank account to fund your business activities. Or perhaps you're playing the rob Peter to pay Paul game, meaning you're taking money out of your bank account, putting it in your personal, and then later in the week or next week you're putting money from your personal back into your business, and it's a constant back and forth. That's a clear sign you probably have a pricing problem. And the third way to know if your business has a pricing problem that people do not talk about often enough is if you have resentment. If you are resenting your clients, your business, having to do the work, most likely you're having a pricing problem and it's resulting in you not getting paid personally. And if you've been around here at all, you know we're obsessed with you getting paid because that's the only reason why this entire business works. So if you don't price accurately, you're not going to have customers. You're going to be short on cash potentially, and you're not maximizing what you can do. It all comes down to pricing. So if you have resentment in your business or towards a client or to actually doing the work, I bet it's because of a pricing problem and you are not getting paid. Now, I don't want you to blame yourself or be a heavy hitter. Most businesses have pricing problems. We've had them over the times too. And in fact, your pricing structure is going to ebb and flow with the economy, with the customers you bring in, and with your business model. That's normal. But if you're never changing your pricing up or down to go with those fluctuations, you're probably experiencing one of those 3 issues we just talked about. You're operating at a loss, you potentially have cash shortages in the bank, or you have to constantly eject cash into your business, or you have a lot of resentment. And those are signs you need to dive into the pricing. And perhaps you're like our client where you're like, I know I have a pricing problem, but I cannot charge more money because I wouldn't have the clients. I can understand that. And we're not in the game of just increase your prices and things are better, because there comes a point where people aren't going to pay for the service at this new price point. But if you can't increase your price because people won't pay for it, you have to control all the expenditures, the reason why you're operating at a loss. So if you're up against the wall and you cannot increase your price, you have to fix the bottom part of the equation, and that's all your expenses. What are you paying for? And that is what you have to figure out. And if you don't want to figure it out, how long is your business going to last? How long are you going to personally sustain it? You have to figure it out. So when it comes to pricing, these are some things I want you to consider. And we have an entire pricing calculator offered in our toolbox. I think it's like $24 for all these great resources and plug and play calculators and dashboards. But if you're like, okay, I have a pricing problem, I have resentment, or the cash in my bank is never what it needs to be, or I'm operating at a loss, how do I actually fix that? Well, the first thing is you need to know what it costs to offer that product or service. If you can't tell me how much it costs to offer that product or service, we're never going to get there. And then you also have to consider what's your overhead. Because if you're not factoring overhead into the price of your product or service, you're automatically losing. And that's the case for most people. But another common issue is you may know what it costs to offer your product or service. You may add a little bit to cover your overhead, but you haven't added for profit. And if you're not pricing for profit, you're just pricing to cover the bills. And that's not going to work either for a long-term solution, especially if you want to get paid. And here's the thing, I love my business, but I don't do it for free. And I'm sure you're not in this to do it for free either. In fact, if you want your business to stay around for a long time, you have to get paid. So you have to fix your pricing situation. Step one, what does it cost to offer your product or service? What is your overhead? Make sure you're factoring that into your price. And you have to price for profit. So there needs to be a markup. If you're like, this sounds great, but I would love a calculator. I need to dive in a little bit deeper. How do I find my overhead? How do I break down all these costs? Use our pricing calculator. It comes with a quick, I think it's like a 30-minute workshop where you can do it yourself. And it's like 24 bucks. We'll keep the link down below. And if you have more questions or you find yourself in one of these situations where you're operating at a loss, you never have enough cash, or you have a lot of resentment, send us a message on Facebook or Instagram. We would love to talk it out with you and help you out. And until next time, cheers to profit.